Hello and good day, pre-algebra. Sorry to interrupt your conversations with a math lesson, but you can close your computer and we will get to learn about standard form today. We spent so much time on slope-intercept form, but there's actually another way to write, several ways, but another way that we're going to talk about to write a linear equation. It's kind of like a synonym. It looks different, but it means the same thing, right? Just like warm could be hot, sunny, summery, caliente, right? There are different, that means hot in Spanish. There are different ways to write the form of a linear equation, okay? So just to appease me, okay, what is slope-intercept form?
Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b.
Y equals mx plus b. Hopefully you are getting more and more familiar with this form, especially with the m and the b variables represent. We spent a lot of time talking about slope and y-intercept and things like that. We've graphed them, we've written them. Okay? Standard form is another type of linear equation, meaning that if you graph any equation written in this form, it's going to be a line on the corner plane, just like slope-intercept form is, right? We know it's going to be a line. Same thing here. Ax plus by equals c will be a line. Okay? It just gives you different information about the line. What I want to focus on to start here is, what do you notice about the location of x and y? What do you notice about the location of x and y? Tony? Abby?
Y is always behind the equal sign.
When you say behind the equal sign, what do you mean?
Or like in front of the equal sign.
So y is always on the left side of the equal sign. Okay, good. What else do you see? Jack?
Well, the a and the x are linked together.
Yes.
And the b and the y are linked together.
Yes. So in standard form, a is the coefficient to x, which means they're linked, they're one term, they're being multiplied. And b is with the y. Since we're using a capital B, in math notation is very important. This capital B is not the same number as the lowercase b. Okay, if it was, then it'd be a lowercase b in standard form. So capital B, lowercase b, different values. They are not the same. They are not the same. Camille, were you going to mention something about that or something else? Okay. Well, in slope-intercept form, notice that x and y, kind of zero here, okay? X and y are on opposite sides of the equal sign, okay? Y equals mx plus b. They're on opposite sides. Whereas in standard form, x and y are on the same side, okay? Ax plus by equals c. X and y are together on one side of the equal sign, whereas in slope-intercept form, they're on opposite sides. Which means that in our two steps to convert an equation from standard form to slope-intercept form, one of those steps will be to move the x term over, right? If we start with an equation such as 6x plus 3y equals 21, standard form, x and y on the same side, and we want to get it into slope-intercept form, one of our steps is to move that x term over. And when you move an x term over, or any term over, from one side of the equation to the other, what method do you use? Think of solving equations. What do we always say is the method for solving an equation? I'll give you a hint. It starts with O. Ends in posit operations. Johnny.
I don't know.
Okay. Tony.
Opposite operations.
Opposite operations. Okay. Opposite operations. Essentially, what we're doing is we're solving for y. We're getting y by itself. Okay. And so to move everything else over to the other side, we're using the opposite operations method. So you've kind of done this before. Okay. Just kind of new context. I'm going to scroll down so we can write the steps and do some examples with the steps visible. Okay. The steps to convert an equation from slope-intercept, or from standard form to slope-intercept form. Step number 1, move the x term over Move the x term to the other side using opposite operations. Okay? Move x term to other side using opposite operations. So let's do that step with this first one here. 6x plus 3y equals 21. I look at my x term. It's a positive 6x. What's the opposite of a positive 6x? Negative 6x, right? Subtracting 6x from both sides is going to move that x term over. Because if I have 6 x's and I take them all away, how many x's are left on the left side? 0, right? Cancel out. I've only got my 3y left. And as far as the right side now, it's getting a little bit tricky here with the order, but can I actually take 21 minus 6x to get like 15x or something like that? No, because the 21 doesn't have an x with it. So I can't actually combine them, which is okay because remember in slope-intercept form, it's y equals mx plus b anyway, right? You have an x term and then you've got a constant. But the thing is, this negative 6x should come first, right? To match that slope-intercept form order. So I'm going to write negative 6x and then positive 21. All right, not 21 minus 6x, because now that x is in the wrong spot. It should come first, before the b, before the constant. I can't actually combine them because the 21 doesn't have an x. So the order here is kind of important. A negative 6x and then plus 21. Questions on that first step? No? Okay. The second step then, you want to divide all terms by the coefficient to y. Divide all terms by the coefficient to y. Now, what's the coefficient? Coefficient is the anyone? When we talk about a coefficient, what are we talking about? Tony? Well, the variable is called the variable, but it has to do with the variable. The coefficient, Shay? Is that hand up? No? Okay? The number attached to the variable, right? It tells us how many of the variable we have. So in the term 3y, what's my coefficient? 3. So it says divide all terms by coefficient to y. In the first example here, that coefficient is 3. So I'm dividing 3y by 3. I'm dividing negative 6x by 3. And I'm dividing 21 by 3. Okay, you're dividing all terms by the coefficient to y. If you're wondering, well, hey, now wait a minute. How come we can divide negative 6x by 3 when that doesn't have an x with it? Did you just get done telling us that you can't combine because that 21 didn't have an x? And now the rules for multiplication and division are different than addition and subtraction. Okay? When you're adding or subtracting 21 minus 6x, without that x with the 21, you cannot combine them. With multiplication and division, you can. Okay? Numbers are fun. Right? So 3y divided by 3, we do this to get y by itself. Those cancel out. What's negative 6x divided by 3? Negative 6x divided by 3. Tony. Good. Negative 2x. Right? Really all you're doing is taking negative 6 divided by 3 to get negative 2 and then putting the x on there. And then what's 21 divided by 3? Jack. Positive 7. So in slope-intercept form, we got y equals negative 2x plus 7. The reason why this matters is because if you're given an equation in standard form and asked to graph it, which you are in the homework, it's going to be a good idea to convert it to slope-intercept form. right? Because now you know, oh, y-intercept positive 7, down 2 over 1, connect the dots, good to go, okay? Whereas written in standard form, it doesn't really give you the slope, doesn't really give you the y-intercept there. All right, the others will go faster, right? That was just a complete every step, hammered out, okay? Let's look at the second one. 4x minus 5y equals 20. Step 1, move x term to other side using opposite operations. How are we going to move that positive 4x to the other side? Okay, subtract 4x. The same way the other one started to. And if it helps you on that right side to not write the minus 4x right beneath the 20 to remind you can't actually subtract them, kind of put it over here. Just keep them separate. Do it. Right? Whatever helps you remember, you're not going to get 16x here. Okay? You can't combine them. Whatever helps you do it. So 4x minus 4x equals 0. Another pretty common mistake here is when you've got that minus 5y, to forget that negative sign is part of it. Okay? So our next line is going to read negative 5y, not positive. Negative 5y equals negative 4x plus 20. Are we all good? I think we put the crayons away. Okay. So negative 5y, that subtraction sign belongs to it. And then we can't combine the 20 and the negative 4x. Slope-Intercept form, that x term is written first. So negative 4x and then plus 20. Yeah?
How come the 4 is negative when there's a negative sign?
The 4 is negative because in order to move this from one side to the other, we can't just take the 4x and put it there. We have to move it there, right? And the process to move the 4x there is to subtract it from both sides to keep the equation balanced. We have 4x's on the left. We subtract 4x's. That gives us 0x's. But since we subtracted 4x's on the left side, we have to subtract 4x's on the right side. So when you write it on the right side, you've got to show it's a negative 4x. Because we started with 0x's, we subtracted 4, and what's 0 minus 4? Negative 4. Okay? So when you move that term, that x term from one side to the other, the sign's always going to change. If it starts positive on the left, it's negative on the right. Positive on the left, negative on the right. This one, it starts negative, so what will it be on the right side? Positive. Okay? The sign of the x term will always change. All right, step 2. Divide all terms by coefficient y. What's our coefficient to y? What?
Negative 5.
Negative 5. Negative 5. So we're dividing everything by negative 5. Okay? Negative 5y divided by negative 5. These cancel out. Y is by itself. And now we end up with this situation here. Negative 4 divided by negative 5. That doesn't work out evenly, but that's okay. Because what is this value, that coefficient to x, going to represent? In slope-intercept form, what does that represent? The slope. And slope is a fraction, right? So negative 4 divided by negative 5, that can be written as negative 4 divided by negative 5. What is that fraction in simplest form? Negative 4 divided by negative 5. What is that fraction in simplest form?
4 over 5.
Positive 4/5. Okay? So if that division doesn't work out evenly for the slope, it's okay. Don't put a decimal. It's a fraction. It's the slope. Just simplify it. And since dividing is what a fraction is anyway, you can think about it as negative 4 divided by negative 5, put it in fraction form, and simplify it. Then 20 divided by negative 5 gives us a negative 4. So y equals 4/5 x minus 4. This objective, you really got to pay attention to negative signs. Okay? The sign changes when you move that x term over. We're dividing by negatives. All right, pay attention, pay close attention. Next one. Negative 10x minus 3y equals negative 36. What's my first step going to be? Oh, it's move the x term over to the other side using opposite operations. Great. What does that mean? Negative 10x minus 3y equals negative 36. What am I doing first? A new voice, perhaps. Thank you, though, for wanting to here. For the last one, I want to move that negative 10x to the right side. What am I going to do? Using opposite operations. Abby?
You're gonna add.
Good. Add 10x. Right? Whatever the sign of your x term is, when you start this, because you have to move it over, that sign's going to change. You're doing it with addition or subtraction. So it'll be a positive 10x over on the right. And this time it's a minus 36 because my 36 was negative in the original equation. Notice how the other two was plus 21, plus 20. It was plus 21 and plus 20 because they were both positive. Now that 36 is negative 10x minus 36. Step 2, what am I dividing everything by? What am I dividing everything by? Haley? Negative 3. Now in the first two examples, I wrote the division symbol. Another way to write division, remember, is like a fraction, which, if that helps you, especially with that slope part, to remind yourself to write it as a fraction, you can do that. Okay? It means the same thing. You're still dividing by negative 3. Y is by itself. 10x divided by negative 3 doesn't work out evenly. Don't put a decimal. Don't put a mixed number. Just simplify the fraction. 10 over negative 3 is simply a negative 10 thirds. That's all you can do. Okay? Negative 10 thirds x. And then negative 36 divided by negative 3. Again, watch those signs here. Negative 36 divided by negative 3k. Positive 12. Good. And there's your equation in Slope-Intercept one. Okay. Okay. There's not going to be any homework tomorrow. You will have an open binder quiz on objectives. What does this unit start on? 52, I think. 52 through 55. 56 will not be on the quiz. So everything that we've had a chance to learn, practice, go over the homework, those objectives will be on the quiz tomorrow. Johnny?
What's homework today?
None. No homework for today. Carter?
Is the quiz going to grade?
The quiz will go on to your grade. Okay.
Will you be here?
What's that?
Will you be here?
I plan on it. Plan on it. All right, folks. Retakes after school today. Yes, indeed. I will be here until 3:30. 3:30 today.
I'll be here tomorrow. Oh, I thought tomorrow was Wednesday.
That's how you math.
Don't forget to like.